I would just like to take a moment to recognize Dr. Pope Davis and his leadership as he's brought the Superintendent in Residence program to Ohio State. Several years ago, I had the opportunity to be appointed to this role. And as the first of the three superintendents in residence, it really opened a lot of opportunities for conversations between the K-12 world and higher education. And Dr. Pope Davis, in subsequent years, added an urban superintendent in residence in Dr. Dixon and a rural superintendent in residence with Dr. Marie Ward, who will be joining us later. As we experience this together, the resources at Ohio State have been phenomenal. We have a team of medical folks who's helping us through COVID, epidemiologists and healthcare professionals. We have a team from EHE who is helping us with our equity and diversity conversation as we, as public educators, work through some of the challenges in our local communities as we deal with equity. And the resources and the leadership at Ohio State have been phenomenal. And as our state's land grant university, and as Ohio State lives that mission to give back and connect, the connections that we've built as superintendents and residents are helping our local school districts. And I'm hopeful that our role with the college and with the university has also brought value to the university and the work that we do as a tier one research institution has also been amazing. All right, I see that our next three panelists are here, and I would like to welcome our Lieutenant Governor, John Husted, to the second panel. The Athletic Director at The Ohio State University, Mr. Gene Smith, and the President of Columbus State Community College, Dr. Dave Harrison. As we talk about stress and leadership, these three gentlemen face it every day. So before we get into the questions, I'll just ask each of you to give a couple thoughts on leadership and stress and introduce yourself to the folks who are joining us in this panel. Mr. Lieutenant Governor, I'll start with you.
Well, thanks, John. It's great to join you and these other great panelists. Look, it's leadership is it's an interesting topic. Everybody knows what leadership is. They recognize it when they see it, but sometimes we have a difficulty distinguishing when we're in these roles exactly what our next step should be in trying to be a good leader. I will tell you that in the public service realm, I think that there are a couple things that stand out to me. First of all, it's supposed to be about service. So it's not about you. It's about what you're doing to serve others. In your role, how are you working to make sure that the people you serve, that you're focused on them? And a lot of times when you have leadership roles, sometimes the world revolves around you. And it's your responsibility to make sure that the ship of state or a university or whatever it might be that you're involved in is focused on the right issues. And people look to you and will model your behavior, your actions, your conduct, your values. And I think that as a leader, it's important that you walk the talk. And that obviously goes not only when you're at work, but when you're outside of work, when you're at home. Everybody is watching, and it's important for you to set a good example. So I'll just start with those thoughts and allow my fellow panelists to offer their opening thoughts.
Mr. Smith, your thoughts as we start the panel.
Thank you, John, for having me. And I think the Lieutenant Governor is right on. When you sum it up, leadership is about people. People are the heart and soul of all that matters in what you do. And staying focused to that core responsibility in whatever organization you're in. You're serving people in some form or fashion. So staying true to your values, staying true to the principles that you have or your organization has is so critical as you lead in this environment. And I think what John shared relative to how you model and how you behave ultimately is also critical. It's the shadow of the leader that always has to be in the forefront of as a leader. Listen to the last panelist, and I'm not one that would be out jogging because I wouldn't want anybody to see me. Nor would I be that one at the club drinking 4 or 5 glasses of wine in order to relieve stress. But at the end of the day, particularly in these times when we're dealing with the pandemic and the challenges associated with that, with the pandemic, leadership needs to be modeled the right way, as John said. So I can't add a whole lot more there. I just would emphasize that leadership is about the people, it's about the relationships, and making sure you stay focused on the people that you serve.
Dr. Harrison. And you're muted, sir.
I lost the bet, and I lose the bet in every meeting. One of the pandemic practices that we've started at Columbus State is to start every meeting with gratitude. And I actually want to do that here. I want to thank my fellow panelists, Lieutenant Governor Husted and Gene Smith. I'm a big believer in tone at the top. And I believe the leadership that the two of you have provided on a national scale is unsurpassed. I mean, it really has given all of us who follow you, I think, a really clear path. So thank you for that. I want to add John Marschhausen, Marie Ward, and Talisa Dixon to that group. 3 great leaders who I consider friends. And I think our K-12 leaders, I mean, first responders and others have gone above and beyond, certainly, but I think our K-12 leaders have had as hard a job as anybody through this process. And we're lucky in Central Ohio to have a really good group of leaders in that space who are working well together and are serving their students and the families that they're responsible for in some really remarkable ways. So grateful to be part of that ecosystem. And again, thankful that we've had really great tone at the top in the state of Ohio. And I think that's an important place to start.
You all have incredibly stress-filled situations, stress-filled lives. So, Mr. Lieutenant Governor, I'm going to start with you. We see you Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday for over a year, going on a year now. In pressers, it's must watch TV for some of us. I'm getting texts yesterday. Hey, turn on DeWine. He's talking about education. How have you managed all of the things that probably you didn't sign up to be a lieutenant governor for, but you take on every responsibility that's tossed at you, and you do it with a smile on your face? How do you maintain your health and especially your focus when at any given time you might have to make a decision or be part of a decision that influences all Ohioans?
Well, it's, look, I'm going to turn back to something that Dave just said. If you have an attitude of gratitude where you're just grateful for the opportunity to do things and that you realize what a privilege it is to be in a leadership role during a critical time, and that other people are counting on you, and you put it in the right perspective, it starts to get a lot easier because you realize that people need you. Not because it's special about you, but you have a job, you have a responsibility in which other people are counting on you to provide stability and focus and clarity, and that you have the responsibility to provide that. And Governor DeWine's been great about that. I've tried to lead in that way knowing that other people need you. Look, during a pandemic, people were scared, whether it was for their health, whether it was for their business, that they didn't know what was confronting them. And a lot of times when they dump on you, you have to realize that you have to be the rock for them. You have to be a source of stability, that they're not, some may be mad at you, but in the end, most people are just scared, or they're looking for answers. They're looking for something to believe that they're going to get through this. And once you realize that that's your role and it's your job to be there for them, then the tough things get a lot easier, because then it feels more like, then you feel like you're called to do something bigger. And I think that we change our entire focus about it being about us and being about somebody else when we have that attitude. And so your perspective on things is the source, I think, of your ability to get through it, the tough times.
Thanks. You've been there, and you've been that rock, and you've been steady. And if we have time at the end, we'll talk about social media later.
There are always moments
Yes.
that it doesn't go like that, but you have to realize that when it's go time, you got to be ready.
Yes. When we talk about those moments, Gene, one of those moments was probably in August, when for many of us, Ohio State football is an escape. It's a great source of pride. How did you handle all of the different things that were swirling around at a time when it didn't look like there was going to be a season, and when things were put on hold? What was that like for you, and how did you maintain a focus and a calm during all of that?
Well, it ties back to what John and David said to some degree. And, I've always felt that this opportunity that we have as leaders requires us first and foremost to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves. I'm a big believer in emotional intelligence. I'm never the guy in the room with the highest IQ, but I believe self-awareness is critical. I learned a long time ago, when I've had the opportunity, been blessed to lead, that I first and foremost need to make sure I take care of myself. So I have a workout regime that is critical to me. And if I miss it, I become a complete idiot. If I miss if I have like 2 days in a row where I don't work out, I'm on that third day, I am not a good human being. So I have a philosophy that I have to take care of myself. And it ties to what John and David said. It's we're blessed. We're blessed to have this opportunity. So we better make sure we bring our A game. And my A game requires me to make sure I get good sleep, requires me to make sure I get good workouts in. If it was summertime, I try and make sure I get some golf in. Even though I can't score, I'll get good golf in. But at the end of the day, I have to take care of myself. And I tell my teammates, the people that I'm fortunate to work with, that they have to take care of themselves. It's critical for them to be able to get through the chaos. So how I dealt with it was that, make sure I took care of myself. Secondly, as I shared earlier, just stayed focused. Every single day I had a plan. I'm an early riser. I work out early in the morning. And as I'm working out, I think about my daily plan and my strategy. And some days I had to count my votes. And the lieutenant governor's used to this. Someday I have to count my votes and figure out strategy on who I had to convince. And I may even, during my workout, depending upon what I'm doing, practice my pitch to try and convince someone to come to my side to hopefully get us to be able to play football in that example. So I would say first and foremost, self-awareness, self-care, that helped me get through the challenges that we faced last fall. Lastly, I would share, no leader makes decisions alone. I don't. I seek the intellectual knowledge and we're the total sum of all of our experiences in life. So I seek people to help give me advice on different things all the time. And so be that my wife or be that a business colleague. So focus on yourself and make sure you take advantage of all the knowledge around you.
And we thank you for those early morning pitches that allowed us to have a great deal of joy this fall and winter for those of us for whom Buckeye football is a sense of pride and joy. Dave, Columbus State pivoted quickly as COVID struck, but I'm sure not every faculty member and everybody on your team was ready for the switch to virtual learning. How do you maintain such a positive attitude as you're leading others and as you're leading an organization the size of Columbus State through these challenging and difficult times?
Well, we've got a great team around us, frankly, and we really work together. We were working really well together before. We've gotten even closer as a result of this, and every decision we make is collective, and I really rely on that. In a lot of ways, I mean, no one was ready for this, but Columbus State came into this with some strengths, if you will. I mean, we're accustomed to responding to what the community needs, and came into this with a good level of expertise in online learning among our faculty, not across the board, but we had a good support system in place. We had some good experts, good faculty who've been doing this for a long time that we're able to leverage. But we started from the beginning making decisions from a place of principle. So I think it was on March 11th, I did a video for the college that said we're going to be guided by three principles. One is health and safety. Two is compassion and flexibility, making sure that we know folks are going to be in a different place than they've ever been, and we've got to be flexible and show compassion in that regard. And three is communication, active, open, transparent communication. All three of those supporting our broad goal of improving student success with a real focus on understanding the experience that different students and students from different groups were having. That's been core to the college for the last 10 years. But health and safety, care, compassion, and flexibility, and communication were principles that continue to guide us. What that enabled us to do was really make decisions as early as possible and stick with them. Our students lead complicated lives. Many of them have children of their own. So as there was uncertainty with K-12, that disrupted their own thinking. Many of them, almost all of them, are working. So when there was disruption with their jobs, that created stress for them. So we tried to be the source of certainty for as many of our students as possible. Those same complicating factors exist, especially the childcare piece, for a lot of our employees as well. So we've tried to, again, create space in that regard for folks to have some predictability in their lives as it relates to their workplace. What that's enabled us to do then is, I think it's been an organic situation where folks have picked one another up. When we come at this, we've all got things going on in our lives personally, but the ability to check in with your colleagues, fellow faculty, fellow staff, work together in new ways. That's been one of the interesting things that's come out of this, is how our faculty have really collaborated in ways that were out of necessity, but are really coming together in practices that we're going to continue to try to move forward. And then finally, we really try to reinforce self-care. And that's been a common theme throughout this session, but I think it's really important. And as Jean just said, as leaders, I think we need to lead by example in that regard. One of the prior panelists talked about self-care not being selfish, and we really try to make that case as well. We provided this semester even additional COVID time for all of our faculty and staff, just so they know they've got a day or a few hours or whatever if they need to meet with their child's teacher, if they need to take a parent to the doctor, those kinds of things, so that we're truly are approaching this in a collective way.
That's perfect. And it leads right into my next question for the Lieutenant Governor. I've heard stories of sixth grade girls basketball and making time for family and maybe even dabbling in some coaching here or there. As you're leading Ohio, how do you schedule time and protect the time that you've got as a dad? And where does that fit in, and how do you fit that in to what must be a 24/7, 365 job?
Well, all of those rumors are true, but there's no threat that Gene's going to ever want to hire me to coach any of his teams. That's for sure. But look, you make it a priority. If you care about it, then you prioritize it. The word that I heard from Gene and David's comments, it's discipline. And you have to have just as much discipline with your family time and your family commitments as you have with your work and your health commitments or whatever it is. You heard Gene say he goes to bed early because he gets up early to do the things that he knows that he has to do to be successful. You have to integrate that throughout all of your life. And look, being a leader, if you want to be a leader and you want to be the person that other people count on, then you have to be the best. You have to have that discipline in all aspects of your life. And for me, look, that's coaching sixth grade girls basketball is probably about as fun as anything I do these days. So there's a great reward in it. But look, everything I do, I want to be the best lieutenant governor and dad and sixth grade girls basketball coach that I can be by getting it all together, right? So you have to prioritize it. You have to have the discipline to follow through. But I don't mean it to sound so regimental, but you do have to treat your family as a priority, and not just a group of people who get whatever you have left in the tank when you get home. And so that's important to sustain whatever you're doing over a long period of time.
In my advice, and I know you know this because you've got a kid who's gone through, it goes so fast. It seems like yesterday I was watching my youngest play freshman at high school, and now she's over at Ohio State on campus living there, and wow, it goes fast. Sixth grade travel basketball seems like yesterday. So are you winning, Mr. Lieutenant Governor? Like, have you beaten that Hilliard team yet? Or
we have I think we have a mixed record against Hilliard teams this year.
Okay.
So we're doing all right.
All right. Gene, social media is a blessing and a curse. And one of the things I enjoy seeing is the pictures of your grandkids. And it's always grandkid number 2, 6, and 8, and they're always wearing Buckeye gear. What's the blessing for you of the connection you've made with your community on social media? And then what's the curse, and how do you balance that?
Yeah, I mean, it's social media is about how you just need to develop a strategy and how you want to embrace it and make sure you position it the right way. For me personally, it's more personal than it is business. I made a long decision a long time ago. It was gonna be about my family as much as I could. My grandchildren are all over the country, and frankly, I know they follow me on Twitter, so I figure I prop them up. And I think you can take it that way and make it fun, and that's what I've tried to do personally. Obviously, from a professional or business point of view, there's huge advantages, and it serves a demographic that all of us have to be sensitive to. So paying attention to it, paying attention to the different platforms that exist. And there's so many of them, and there's some still emerging. And there's one we're getting ready to jump on in our athletic department with our student athletes, where we can create conversation. So there's, to me, you have to look at it tactically, a little bit of to what John said about discipline. You need to look at it from a discipline point of view. You just can't jump into it because it serves a purpose. It's a part of our culture. It's a part of our ecosystem. We need to embrace it, but embrace it the right way. So I would encourage everyone to make sure that they're intentional about it. I encourage everyone to watch The Social Dilemma on Netflix. It's very educational. Will help you with that. And there's another one that I forgot. It's called The Hack or something of that nature. Haven't seen that one yet. But I think we need to just continue to educate ourselves about it and use it the right way. So I personally like using it for my family more than anything. But of course, we have a business approach with it as well.
How many grandkids are there, just out of curiosity?
Well, there's 7 right now, and our youngest daughter just got married virtually, and so hopefully we can get into the double digits here. There's no pressure. On a family Zoom that was mentioned a couple of months ago, so hopefully we can get into the double digits.
It's fun to watch, and as you talk about it, your approach is evident. I think people feel like they know you and your family at a different level because of how you manage that. And it's great for you to share that and talk about that.
Well, thank you. I mean, that's the idea. It is, you can personalize it or you can make it business. But I just like the fact that I periodically will get comments like the one that you just made about the fact that I'm personalizing who I am. And I want people to understand that I have a family. As John said, they're my priority. Unfortunately, if something was happening with my family, I'd jump off of this Zoom right now. So it's my priority, and it's my way to connect with them. Sometimes they'll send me a picture and ask me to tweet it out. So I just love that. I love that engagement.
And they all have Buckeye gear on all the time, so that also helps.
That's because my wife is constantly online today. It's amazing how this COVID environment has forced online sales to emerge in the e-commerce space, and she is taking advantage of that. And obviously, we're able to do a lot of hand-me-downs in that environment too.
Yes. Dr. Harrison, as we talk about young people, what roles do we have? I know that Ohio State Athletics coaches up their athletes. What roles do we have in preparing our young people to handle stress in the world we're in today, and how to handle all the social emotional challenges that go along with the world in which we are today?
Well, as I mentioned before, a lot of our students lead complicated lives, and that was pre-COVID. Balancing job responsibilities, family responsibilities with their studies, and the pandemic has just layered so much on top of them, and really helping them sort out between the urgent and the important is something we always try to focus on, because again, our students come to us with a goal in mind, and in many cases that's a long-term goal. So we take it upon ourselves to try to eliminate their short-term barriers in order for them to get to their long-term goal. And again, COVID has just multiplied the complexity of that. So we're really trying to listen hard through this pandemic. And one of the things that we've done is we've been fortunate because we haven't done any furloughs or layoffs throughout the pandemic, but we do have folks whose jobs they're just underutilized based on what their job was before. So we've been able to put together a team of what we call navigators who are basically case managers. They're assigned a group of students, a small enough group so that they can create a relationship with, so that students have a phone number to call or to text so that the bureaucracy isn't getting in the way. Whatever they need, they've got a friend that they can call that can help navigate the system. That's something that has worked well, that we're going to really continue to try to build on. One of the things we're really trying to encourage, and in the one-on-one conversations I have with our students or with our faculty and staff, is asking for help is not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of strength. And really trying to set that tone and make sure that that folks know that that is something that we all do, and we all need help, and we're all in a position where we can help others from time to time, but we're also all in a position where we need help. So we're trying to create that environment among our students, again, and our employees. And then we're also trying to make sure that that help is available based on what they need.
Well, I've got 3 experienced, seasoned leaders here. And when I look at some of the folks who are on the call, there are a lot of us who are on life's journey who are just starting or in the middle of this journey. If you were going to give K-12 leaders some advice as we grapple with communities divided over when we return to all in, and as we deal with the social media, we'll start with you, Mr. Husted, or Lieutenant Governor. What advice would you give school leaders, principals, as they navigate this unprecedented journey themselves?
Wow, well, that's a difficult question to answer to that broad of an audience, because I think I would probably give a little different advice to somebody who's starting their career versus somebody who's maybe later on. But I think some universal advice is know your customer. Who is it that you're supposed to be serving? What are the important elements of doing that? How are you effectively communicating to them your vision, so that internal audience and external audience, so people know where you're going and what you hope to achieve? And then coming back to something we had earlier, having your plan, your own plan with your family life, with your personal life, with your professional life, so that you can accomplish all of those things, and that you commit to having the discipline that it takes to see it through. Knowing that every time you take something else on in life, you have to give something up. You can't keep adding and then do all of those things right. You have to prioritize. You have to know what's the most important thing, and then sometimes, eliminate relationships or habits or things that you have had in your life. Set them aside so that you can do the higher valued, higher prioritized elements of what it takes to be successful. So I'll start with that and let the others, offer their thoughts.
Gene?
Well, I don't know if I could share a whole lot more. I think John hit it on the head. Very eloquent and spot on. I would probably only add patience. Obviously, he laid it out perfectly. But patience is probably one element, particularly in what we're dealing with. We don't know what tomorrow will bring. Attack each day with a plan, just as our Lieutenant Governor shared. But be patient and pause every now and then. Do not let frustration get in the way of your opportunity, because just stay positive as best as you can. And in order to do that, you just need to pause. And maybe that's sitting down, or maybe that's going for a walk, or whatever it is, to help you get back to what President Harrison started with, which is gratitude. As a leader, we are fortunate. We're blessed. And so with everything that our Lieutenant Governor shared, when there's that moment of frustration or that moment of uncertainty or whatever that you're faced with, just pause and bring out that patience, and it'll come to you. If you work that plan that he laid out, it'll come to you.
I find myself sometimes with groups of people who are kind of caught in that negative loop where you get a bunch of negative people together and whoa, there. So do you see that with the folks even on your team?
Oh, sure. No, I think we've all seen that in different situations, and the pandemic and our new world order has caused that. We're missing social interaction. We're missing water cooler conversations. We're missing just the informal ability to be together. So, sure, I've seen that, and I am a person, as my teammates will probably tell you, I just try and keep an optimistic attitude, and I try and create laughter. Laughter is for me is important. I try and create it on almost every single call. There's no reason not to be happy. There's no reason to. But you have to find that. You have to find why you stay happy. If you operate in a negative zone, you can't lead. You can't lead, nor can you be successful. There are too many positives in life for you just to stay in that negative zone. Find a way to pause and get yourself out of it. And that may be that you have to leave the room, or that may be that you have to, kill the visual on Zoom and go for a walk, or whatever it is, whatever your strategy or tactic is, you have to employ it and find it. Because we're fortunate, and we all are, in whatever role you are. And lastly, I want to thank all the people in higher in education, the K through 12 system, because your sacrifices have been just phenomenal, and your adjustment to this new world order that we're in have been unbelievable. And so, thank you. And I would just share, stay patient.
Who's that person in your world when you get kind of in that spiral? Is there someone who pulls you up? Is there someone who?
Yeah. So one of the things that I will share is also important, just in life, regardless of leadership, all of us has to have that one person that is brutally honest with you, that you have to empower them. You have to give them the ability to tell you the truth about yourself. That mustache is crooked. That the two socks you have on are different colors. you know that no that one doesn't fit you. You have to give them the ability to tell you the truth. So my wife is she's my soul keeper. I mean, you're in a bad mood, or something's not right, or you need to take a different approach. I mean, she has the ability, because she knows me, to tell me the God's honest truth at any moment in time. And
Yeah.
I'd recommend everybody find that one person and be vulnerable and open yourself up to that one person, so they can help you through the eyes of others you see yourself. And you need to let them help you.
I would add to Gene's point right there that in your life, if you punish people for telling you the truth, you'll stop getting the truth. So you should welcome it. Feedback is a gift. Treat it as such.
Well said.
And you've got some of those people too, Mr. Lieutenant Governor?
I get a lot of advice and I like it. And if you listen, they may be a lot of times sharing frustration with you, but and you can't turn that into negativity, but you have to turn it into something positive, because when you hear it a couple of times, and it's something you ought to pay attention to.
Dave, you're the leader of leaders in a lot of cases here in Central Ohio, and a lot of us turn to you. What's your advice for us?
Well, first of all, John, I want to thank you for having me follow two nationally renowned leaders in a conversation about leadership. But the one thing I'd add to the emerging leader question that you asked was leaders need to be themselves and need to be comfortable being themselves. And I give that advice whenever emerging leaders come to me to have these conversations, because these, the compartmentalization, the self-care, the discipline that we all activate in our own ways is really important. but these jobs are all consuming and they need to be. You need to be able to bring your whole authentic self to these leadership roles, and I think that enables you to bring the vulnerability and the informality that allows people to be honest with you. And setting that tone, I think, is important, and it's ongoing because you're continuously interfacing with different people who may not know you like the other folks did. So the ability to just be your authentic self in every situation, I think, is critical.
In what way, Dave, do you find being yourself helps you do what you do and stay vulnerable? And in what way would someone say, that's just Dave?
Well, this pandemic has been interesting. And even as we haven't been able to be in the same room together, in some ways, especially the folks you work most directly with, we've probably gotten to know each other a little better. So, I've had a tie on maybe 4 times since March. And the 10 years before that, there weren't that many people in Columbus that had seen me without a tie on. I walked in, virtually to a cabinet meeting Monday morning, literally right off the treadmill. And it's not the first time that's happened. So I'm just as likely to be in a baseball cap and a hoodie, again, in a staff meeting than I am dressed like this. And that informality, I think, has really helped us. And it's something that we want to try to continue. Now, the first time that happened, that was a bit of a shock to folks. But my foundation board chair still gives me a hard time for wearing a hoodie to an executive committee meeting. But that's still something that brings authenticity that in some ways this environment promotes in a way that it didn't before. And I haven't figured all that out yet, but we're trying to figure out how do we keep that going as we emerge from this.
So in a post-COVID world, will I show up at some meetings at Columbus State and you'll be tieless? Because if that's the new dress code, I'm all in.
So we had a conversation right after the first of the year with our cabinet about what have we learned that we want to continue. Dress code was at the top of the list, so I'm going to try to lead by example. Absolutely.
I know that on a lot of the calls with the lieutenant governor, you're a little more casual than you were before.
Yeah, I didn't, I was always in a tie and a suit, and now I intend to do a sports jacket, or even better, what you see me in, a winter shirt and a vest today, which is when I work from home, which I do often these days. Before, I go into the office on press conference days, which, by the way, John, I think we've done 150 of them since the first case of COVID. So you go through that all the time. But yeah, look, you learn a lot of things. Unfortunately, what I've learned is that Saturdays and Sundays are also easily become work days where lots of people can be in meetings. But I also think that so that does make some of this stuff a little tough when every day can be a work day where everybody can be in a meeting. So you gotta find those balances as well. I think that it's probably unique to our situation because we're in the middle of a pandemic and managing all that, and there are no off days. But look, every experience is something you can learn from, and it can build you up or it can tear you down. Like, you just have to have the resolve as a leader to identify the things that you like about the change and that you don't like about the change, and adopt the good and resist the bad. That's what all of life is. This is just, you got to roll with the punches. That's how life is. It's not gonna. So I mentioned a plan earlier. You're gonna have a plan, and it's not gonna go the way you had planned, and that's just the way it is. And you have to be, you have to adapt and not be a victim, but be a leader.
Wow. Well, to the three of you, thank you so much for spending 45 minutes with us today. I so appreciate you not only taking my email, but agreeing to do this a couple of weeks ago.
Well,
So
John, I'm gonna say, you wouldn't have the three of us unless we didn't have such great respect for you and the work that you do and the audience that we're speaking to today and how much we value all of them. So
Well said.
just know that we're here because we believe in you and we believe in the mission of what you're trying to do here and the people who are part of this conversation today.
Well
Well,
said.
I know how valuable all of your time is. So from my heart, thank you. I appreciate it. I've learned a lot. I hope everyone else has learned a lot. And thank you for what you all do. It's a true team effort. And I know you probably get more text messages from me than you want. But we keep working together, and I appreciate everything that you're doing to help all of us as Ohioans move forward. So thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you,
Be safe,
everybody.
everybody.
Stay safe.
As we wrap up, I'd like to introduce my colleague and superintendent in residence from the Fairfield County Educational Service Center, Dr. Marie Ward. And Dr. Ward, if you could bring us home, that would be awesome.
Thank you.
There we go.
My pleasure. I did it, Dave. I didn't unmute myself. I just want to take a moment to thank the dean for this opportunity, my fellow superintendents and residents, and our panelists. I attend these sessions and I participate in these sessions, and I often walk away with some really important nuggets. And I think some of the nuggets today are just in summary: listen to yourself, get up and move, lead by example, practice gratitude, have some grace, take care of yourself, practice kindness, lead with your principles, and seek help if you need it. I'm at an educational service center. Our goal is to serve, as all of our panelists do. And out of this pandemic has come many, many learning opportunities. So I just want to close today with thanking folks and to share with you some upcoming virtual events. There's an event on March 11th and again on April 1 titled Unapologetic Research Series Addressing Anti-Blackness, Racism, and White Supremacy. Very relevant topic today. There is also a summer institute coming up with Teaching Beyond the COVID-19 Era, Building the Future. That is going to be taking place between June 1st and July 16th. So please stay attuned to additional details, and thank you very much.